Hey everyone, welcome to another BRAP rant. It is Friday, Friday, March 22nd, 2024. If you didn't get a chance, definitely check out this week's BRAP with special guest Tim Dog. It was great having Tim on. We had a conversation around the Xbox change in strategy and his criticism of Xbox with their strategy and kind of the community's reaction to Tim speaking out as a consumer should. He's not happy with this move, and it's kind of a very, very interesting conversation and getting his perspective on things from somebody who's been an Xbox influencer for 10 plus years. But do want to welcome my co-host this evening, Game Logic. What's going on, Game Logic?
Not much, Ron. How are you?
Doing well. Are you still watching WWE Ruthless Aggression era?
I am. It's on rotation. Yep.
So how far are you into? I forget how long the Ruthless Aggression era was. A couple of years, I know that, but I don't recall.
It was a few. I can't remember how long off the top of my head.
Yeah, and I think then after that they kind of went like PG for a little bit. Now I feel like they're kind of in between like PG and Ruthless Aggression era.
Yeah, I forget. There's a specific term for that PG era. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, there is. It's not the golden era is like the Hulk Hogan era. Then there's the Attitude era.
Attitude, right?
And then there's a Ruthless Aggression era. And then there's like the PG era, but I forget what it's called.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at it now. Golden era, New Generation era actually came before the Attitude era.
Oh, that's right, the New Generation, because that's after Hulk Hogan left. That's when they started pushing some of these like newer stars, like Bret the Hitman Hart and Shawn Michaels and stuff. Yeah.
Right. You had a very brief time of the Invasion and the NWO. I think that was the merger when they got WCW. And then they had Ruthless. Yeah, then they had Ruthless Aggression, Money in the Bank, Return to ECW. No, you're absolutely right. That's all it was called. It was the PG era.
Oh, okay. I thought it was good. Yeah.
Because they because Raw had gotten bumped to TV 14, and they were actually trying to get it back to TV PG.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah, that was my least favorite of the WWE eras, the PG era.
Yeah, they walked it back a little too far.
Yeah. They went from one extreme to the other.
Yeah, so then it was the reality era was after that, which was very short. And then the new era, 2016 to 2021, and now now they have nothing because there's been so much of the ownership transition and leadership changes, and they're just doing what they're doing right now.
Yeah, no, they definitely are. What's up, everyone in the live chat? Thank you for joining us. Drop the link here. You might hear me like sneeze, and I'm a bit congested, so I apologize. Allergies are bothering me this right now. We're at that time of year now where things start kicking up, allergy season wise. So, but yeah, thank you everyone for joining us live. I did drop a link in the live chat. Please do me a favor, retweet the link or post it on your favorite social media platform. So. We are going to discuss Dragon's Dogma 2, which launched today. It's launched not without issues, despite mostly positive reviews. I think it's, I should say mostly, but yeah, majority of the reviews were positive. And it currently sits at a 87 Metacritic. And then we're also going to discuss the PlayStation 5 Pro. Who is it for? It's a question Mooch asked me last night, as a matter of fact. Some interesting articles around PlayStation 5 Pro. I always feel like anytime these pro consoles come out, there seems to be a conversation about who's it for or who asked for it. So we'll talk about that in just a bit here. But
so you said 87 on Metacritic?
Yeah, I think it's 87. Let me check again.
Okay, and it's at 42% on Steam.
Yes.
Hence the reason for tonight's discussion.
Yeah, because we always talk about the Steam reviews here. On the show, and yeah, let's see Metacritic right now. It's 87. Yeah, it's still 87. That's based on 58 critic reviews. That's a PlayStation 5. We'll look at all the other
Bruh,
platforms.
it is 89 on PC.
Yeah, 89 on PC on 36 critic reviews, and 15 reviews for Xbox Series X and 86. So
help me out before we get started with this. Has IGN put up their review score for Dragon's Dogma?
Let me check here. Good question.
I don't see IGN USA. They may have not. Maybe they didn't review the PC version.
Dragon's Dogma. I don't see IGN here. Maybe IGN hasn't reviewed it yet. Maybe it's still in process. I
gotta believe they reviewed it.
Oh, they gave it an 80.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. Dragon's Dogma 2 is a strange and wonderful game that seems haunted by some of yesteryear's bugaboos. It's a retelling and reimplementation of all those wonderful ideas of the 2012 cult classic, including an awesome dynamic world and some of the best combat in the genre that integrates a subtle but amazing complex physics system. On the other hand, it's finicky, AI, clunky climbing, choppy frame rate, and camera with a habit of going haywire at the worst times are all features I wish hadn't been brought back for another round. Even so, there's an action RPG here that's richly rewarding and comparable to its contemporaries if you can be patient with its quirks and open to embracing its hands-off open world and quest designs.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit too, about the legacy and what that means or should mean or should not mean with whatever regard is had for, the current game at launch.
Yeah, let's see here. And so Dragon's Dogma currently on Steam. Let me go to Steam here real quick. I think you said
42%.
Why am I seeing? Is it at 42%? I'm not seeing it on Steam for some reason. But
Yeah, you have to mouse over the mixed.
Oh, there we go. Okay, I see. Yep, I got it now. Yep. Yeah, 42% of 17,534 user reviews for this game are positive. Jeez, 42%? Eek. That's not good, man. It's not good. Yeah. One of the reviews says, "Hey Capcom, you can purchase a good review DLC for $2." That's that funny.
By comparison, because I want to sort this out tonight too, Starfield is at 39% when you look at recent reviews. It is at 61% when you look at all reviews.
So Starfield's got better overall reviews then.
Slightly, yeah.
But lower recent reviews. Yeah. Yeah. So this is 17,000 people, as I mentioned earlier, on Steam.
And Forza Motorsport has recent at 49%. So I think part of this conversation is, I will definitely say my negative perspective on the image at launch of Dragon's Dogma is highly oriented around the PC version. So I think a lot of the people who have been arguing in favor of Dragon's Dogma are playing it on console. So I needed you to help me out a little bit. Which console tribe is supportive of Dragon's Dogma 2?
Honestly, I don't know, because I've only seen... it's kind of been a mixed bag from what I've seen on Twitter, kind of the reaction. It's been both people who play on Xbox, people who play on PlayStation. And at least from what I've seen, the reaction on social media has been this. Microtransactions, yeah, they suck. Or in some instances, others have said, look, it's an option. You don't have to buy them. But I think there are a couple things here, two things in particular that kind of stick out to me that I think are very disappointing with regards to the microtransactions they've implemented here. But I can't say that one console side is more vocal about Dragon's Dogma 2 than the other. I think I've seen it's been pretty consistent, I think, on both platforms.
Yeah, I would think that the Xbox camp would be proponents of this game in general, just because it lines up with the multi-platform narrative.
Yeah. But I could be wrong. There's probably a lot of tweets I missed today too. I wasn't on Twitter much, but when I was, that's what I saw. So, but yeah, I mean, look, I would say this is kind of a little bit of a messy launch for Dragon's Dogma 2 in light of the positive reviews. There are articles out there already. I've seen a couple of videos pop up on YouTube discussing the microtransactions, and and what's interesting is, at least from some of the reviews I've read, I didn't see, and this is the other thing that I want to talk about too, Logic. I didn't see any, at least maybe they're out there, I just haven't come across them just yet, but some of the reviews that I read didn't mention anything about microtransactions. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't think Capcom discussed this game having microtransactions prior to launch of the game. So, I mean, part of the news story here is that players today downloading the game discover that there are 21 separate DLC purchases available on day one. And some of that disappointment, and this is what I did see on Twitter, some of that disappointment is around that, is about there's certain items that people feel should be easier to obtain in game, or just be free.
So while you're going through this, I'm going to pick out a couple data points. So I'm looking at Windows Central's review of the game by Jez Corden. No mention of microtransactions whatsoever anywhere in the review. No,
and God, I feel like we're always talking about media and content creators. Hopefully someone listening to this show doesn't think it's just about them. But yeah, I mean, like, so people had to actually question Jez, and he's like, look, he tweeted this out today. I just want to add that these microtransactions were detailed in the initial review guide, which I didn't read as to avoid spoilers, that it might impact my review impressions. Ironic. I mean,
so that was Jez Corden's comment on his review?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
The IGN review says, editor's note, which I assume this has been added since the review posted.
Yeah.
Since the review posted 2 days ago, before launch, before commercial launch. At launch, Capcom added microtransactions to Dragon's Dogma 2 that were not available during the review period. So I assume that the delivery to IGN was the same as it was to Jez, that they were not in the game at review, but they were in some email or other collateral. Because I think one thing that people don't understand is, when reviewers don't just get like a one-line email with a code for the game. Like they get collateral. They actually get given guidance on, like, not necessarily how they should play the game, but they're given some background to the game, and I don't know exactly how I want to frame it, but they're given some descriptive text, right? They may be given, they're given, any notion of, like, any guidance, with regard to any NDA or embargo and stuff like that. So my point is, they get correspondence with the game. It's not just, hey, here's the code, have a good time.
Let it rip.
Yeah. But yeah, did I read that? They said, at launch, Capcom added microtransactions to Dragon's Dogma 2 that were not available during the review period. We've added a microtransaction reaction section below to discuss them and their effect on gameplay.
Yeah, and go ahead.
And IGN score, I know we said they gave it an 80 because that's the Metacritic score that was rounded up. It's actually a 7.5 on IGN.
Okay.
I'm sorry. No. I read that wrong. That was Dragon's Dogma. They had a first one. They put, yeah.
All right. Okay. So Fighting Cowboy tweeted out, yes, they were extremely upfront about the fact that there would be paid DLC. I looked at it, saw it. Oh, I just lost text here. I looked at it, saw it's a bunch of shit I'm going to earn in game anyway, and never gave it a second thought. And anyone saying it was sneaky is lying for clicks. So I honestly think that if you're reviewing the game and you know there's going to be DLC, I feel like that's something that'd be important to know.
I feel like if I had that concern that the reviewer mentioned, and that was valid and credible, then what I would have done, and I've done this when I've reviewed games, I've done this when I've reviewed products. I will typically go on blackout and not read anyone else's reviews, but I will write my review and complete my review and assign it a score. And then I will lift the embargo, and allow myself to go read other people's. Typically, I will publish it, but like in this case, I would have done my review, completed it, given it a score, submitted and published it. But then I would have, before all was said and done, because of course you can always go back and add notes like the editors did here at IGN. I would have then gone back and like done all the cleanup, And if this microtransaction thing was in it, which is just kind of weird because it seems like there are games that there's more of a leaning forward to make absolutely certain and clear, whether it's by the media or gamers, whether or not a game has microtransactions. Like I feel that's been a much more front and center thing on other games in the past.
Yeah, I mean, developers have come out and say, "Oh no, this game won't have microtransactions." Right. Yeah, but the optics of it though, like just like people waking up this morning, but when people downloading the game today and saying, like being treated to microtransactions, I mean, we talked about this earlier, but the optics of it don't look good, in my opinion. I think Capono in the live chat said Sony did the same thing with GT7. It's very shady. The optics of it don't look, and that's actually part of one of the biggest complaints that I saw on social media was that, look, this does look shady. Like they didn't discuss it. It wasn't mentioning the reviews. People are questioning why media and influencers didn't, if they were aware of the game having microtransactions, how come it wasn't mentioned in some of the reviews? I know you mentioned the IGN edit, but again, I feel like that might be something important, at least in my opinion. I think that's something that may be a tipping point for someone on whether or not they decide to buy the game. Or just kind of a, because, Capcom's not being transparent about it. Something that would have been, good to report on prior to launch.
Yeah. I mean, look, I've been engaged in arguments in the past, and I've definitely been engaged in heated arguments where a mutual of mine has claimed, hey, the fact that microtransactions are in there means that there are elements of the design that were contrived even for the people who don't participate in microtransactions. And my feeling on it has been, and I'll use a weapons unlock analogy, that if a weapon's placed in a game and the metric is, hey, the player has to complete 105 kills, right, with this weapon in order to level it, then that means what, as an inherent part of the design of the game, they have had a discussion and had, implementation, design, trade-offs, decisions, etc., saying, hey, we're gonna put a microtransaction for weapon unlock in this game. How much is it going to cost, right? And they figure out the math of what equates to 105 kills, right, in terms of player time or something. And then also what they're trying to figure out before they finalize what kill count they set that weapons unlock at for people who are just going to not do the microtransaction but just do it by playing the game, is they're also figuring out what do we think the frustration point and the tip over point is for a person to just say, screw it, I'm not going to earn it, I'm just going to go buy it, right? Which is BRAP's famous thing that I constantly give him crap about is the battle pass level unlock, right? I mean, they didn't just arbitrarily come up with 20 skip levels, right? Like,
no, they didn't.
Somebody put some gray matter behind that and said, what is the right number? And so, but in the past, my perspective has always been, okay, maybe they're requiring me to get 5 extra kills, 10 extra kills, 15 extra kills in the hope that will push me to buy the microtransaction, but that doesn't bother me. And in the case of a weapon unlock, it doesn't bother me because I enjoy the do loop of playing the game and that grind. In this case, and I want to talk, I guess I want to talk about 2 specific microtransactions, right? Because just the presence, because I want to make sure I differentiate the mere presence of microtransactions and it being in a single player game, and because they're charging you $70, I'm not one of those people, right? There are some people who say they're charging me full price for the game. There should be no microtransactions in my windshield. And I just don't believe that's the world we live in. So I completely get it. But two of the microtransactions that hit my tip over point are the microtransaction for fast travel in an open world RPG and the microtransaction for editing your character appearance. Again, in a modern RPG. I feel like those are two essential elements of gameplay mechanics that are in a game that are quality of life and convenience items that should be available to a person. To me, it's an expectation in that genre of game. And so the presence of microtransactions, again, now I go back to, okay, somebody sat at a table and did the math, right? And a person I was arguing with today, and I think a lot of the perspective of the people on the other side of this argument are, you can earn that in game, right? You can, you can get whatever coins or tchotchkes or whatever, right, to earn it. So let me also go back to,
well, Hamp, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
The character editing, like, yeah, you can earn that, but apparently it's a extremely rare item. So it sounds like it may not be. It sounds like it's probably something that's not easily available or readily available in game. Like you got to do some like homework or some exploration to find it.
And so this is part of my points and what I was about to do, some of the loop backs, right? Part of the point of this is when I don't play a video game to be bothered. I don't play a video game for you to nickel and dime me about, quite frankly, excuse the language, a bunch of bullshit that I don't care about. Right? We slagged Starfield for choosing to go 4K 30 on consoles because they felt that they need to track every piece of particulate matter in the universe, right, in onboard compute. And we said our problem with that was that it was not impactful to gameplay. It was not worth the sacrifice of 4K 30. So the analog to that is I'm not going to give the microtransaction a pass, saying that, oh, you can earn this stuff. I'm like, but is earning that stuff impactful? Is putting that ask for me to pick up litter off the ground, right, impactful to the gameplay loop? And if it's not, if it's a bother and it's a chore, then that's a bad design choice, in my opinion. And I feel like the conversation, I'm not landing on I'm right and everybody else is wrong. The conversation, because we constantly advocate for a certain level of sophistication, right, in the gaming discussion, that level of sophistication needs to allow for the notion that there are going to be people who feel that way. Like, don't bother me with that. And then with regards to fast travel, like, to me, again, going back to character editing, like, character editing to me is a thing that should, and your ability to access that openly, right, with no gate guard in front of it. Great Scott, man. This is on PC, right? I did not buy a Ryzen 9 7950X and an RTX 4080 so that I could be bothered by being gated to get to my character editor. Right? I mean, I bought those things so I could have the greatest amount of graphical bells and whistles on the screen. And if part of the ways that I want to enjoy that is by sometimes going in and just arbitrarily changing my character appearance so I can see how it's rendered on the screen, I should be able to do that without being bothered by having to pick up litter on the ground.
Yeah, and that that was the fast travel one. I think it's called the Port Crystal, the warp location marker. That's actually $3 to buy.
Yeah, I don't feel that that's cheap.
Like I just, but that's a staple. That I mentioned these two earlier today. I'm playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and you can fast travel once you unlock certain areas of the map and locations. You can fast travel to those locations. I mean, that is a staple of open world RPGs, and to charge for that is that to me is egregious. I was very disappointed to see that. Now, there's also the Wake Stones, which you can use to resurrect a player, and those are $1 each. Now, again, you can earn those, but apparently, according to reporting, the Wake Stones are extremely scarce in the game.
Right. And Divinity Original Sin 2, which Slow-Mo and I often talk about, right, in relation to Baldur's Gate 3, has like a resurrect scroll that you can find. But depending on what level of difficulty you put it at, by the way, does Dragon's Dogma 2 have a difficulty slider?
I'm not even sure, to be honest with you.
So I'm guessing and assuming no, right? So this is yet another thing where I'd say, right, there are always design decisions that go into a microtransaction. That I find acceptable and okay. But there are some that I hold, I guess, sacred and critical. And I get it. That's subjective, right? That's me rendering my own judgment, right? But there are some that I hold, sacred and consider essential that you don't muck with those, right? And so one of my things is difficulty slider. This is not a Souls game, right? But I'm absolutely certain there's not a difficulty slider because that would impact, right, how quickly you could pick up those items. Or there's a difficulty slider, but it doesn't impact those items, which is, again, is another, I think, critical design decision, right, that you wind up implementing a certain way because you're trying to leave the window open to drive people to microtransactions.
Yeah.
Like fast travel. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So, there's an argument that, fast travel is gated because it's trying to encourage you to there's a risk reward thing, right? Of going out in the world. And so do you take that risk and go out there or do you fast travel? And that I understand. A very famous example for me is Diablo. Like I don't use fast travel in Diablo most of the time, but most of my career of playing Diablo 2, Diablo 3, Diablo 4, I haven't really used even when it was just like those little like portal stones or whatever. I didn't typically tend to use those. I only use the Scrolls of Town portal when I needed to kind of to bamf out of a fight, right, or else get killed. So typically I don't use fast travel because I'm okay with the grind. Because if I walk from point A to point B, I'm going to encounter monsters and kill them and gain XP, and that's going to help me level. And that's okay. But it's also okay because I have the choice and because I'm not being gated, right, by a potentially contrived design decision built around a microtransaction. So just my point on the microtransactions is character editing and fast travel. That's just a bridge too far for me to be okay with.
No, I don't disagree with that. Like I said, I mean, those were, we spoke earlier. I said I was only aware of the fast travel. I'm like, okay, that's very disappointing. It's egregious. And then, the character, the resurrection, the character editor. Again, with the character editor, it's not necessarily locked behind a paywall. You can use the Art of Metamorphosis that's in game, but again, that's an extremely rare item. So it goes back to what you said. Like they're not gonna design these things so that people aren't going to use them per se. I mean, they're going to try to steer people in that down that path of buying these microtransactions.
Well, yeah, and on that point, let me step aside over to the educational point of this, right? Game development studios and publishers these days typically employ somebody that is called a game economist. So that is a person who works with the developers and works with the business team to come up with the metrics and the formulas and the variables to calculate the math and make those decisions that I was talking about earlier. Like, how many kills are we going to require them to level this weapon? Depending on, right, based on how much we're charging them to like get out of that. In an old school thing of like the old Need for Speed where you used to be able to just buy the car pass and like unlock all the cars, right? There's math that goes into making that decision now today. One of the things that people need to understand, along the points of consumer advocacy and making sure that people are informed and educated is that person's on staff. You are paying that person's salary. If you don't buy one microtransaction, right, you are paying for yet another six-figure salary earning person on the staff in this day and age where, again, these are not things that generally bother me, but in this day and age where people are yammering and constantly complaining and belly aching and whining about the cost of AAA games. Now maybe that one person that doesn't really make a big, huge deal, and maybe their like costs are peanut buttered across 5 or 6 games, maybe, right? But the point is that person's time, the developer's time, the design decision time, right? The collaboration session time, all the stuff in, Jira, putting stuff on boards, et cetera. Like all of that stuff has a cost associated with it, and you're paying for it, whether or not you buy the microtransaction or not.
Yeah, the other thing too, Ham, do you see this that they implemented? What was the other thing they implemented on PC? This is PC. De novo. Is that like an anti-cheat thing on PC?
That is I think that's more of an anti-tamper. So it's put in to prevent you from tampering with the game. It's not expressly like.
Yeah, it is anti-tamper, and I know like some people believe that it can impact PC performance.
Yeah, it is kernel level. So that's another tripwire that really bothers PC gamers. Despite de novo constantly claiming that they were coming up with a test and a toolkit, and that there are ways that they can prove that it doesn't impact performance. I've never seen them come out with anything definitive that anybody trusts that allows them to do so.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's typically often a thing that that games back out once they are past like a certain revenue earning point. It's really an anti-piracy thing, I think, more than anything. It is definitely referred to as an anti-tamper, digital rights management. But it seems like a lot of games, once they're out of that window where they really care about the negative impact of piracy on revenue, that they pull it out.
Yeah, Josh Ayers is asking the question, Hamp. So does it affect performance?
I don't think that there's ever been a smoking gun that says that it has impacted performance. No.
Yeah, and this also begs the question too. We know the Capcom CEO said that like the $70 price point for AAA games, they're past that now. It's just like the cost of AAA games, the math isn't mathing per se. And so I'm wondering now, because this is a single player game and we see the list of microtransactions here. I think there's about 20 or so microtransactions. I haven't counted them all, but I think there's 21 altogether. All right. They range anywhere from 99 cents to $2 to $3, the most expensive being $5. And I'm wondering now, like, if we are going to see, because we've heard for weeks now, the cost of AAA games going up. AAA games aren't sustainable. We've heard Sean Layden talk about sustainability of AAA games, and that really the price to consumer hasn't really kept up with the development cost. I'm wondering now, like, Logic, if this is something we're going to start seeing now, where like single player games are going to start introducing more microtransactions now. And I actually said this a couple weeks ago when the conversation came up about AAA games and whether or not they're sustainable. I said, the industry is going to figure this out. They're going to do a couple things. I think they were, and I said they were either going to raise the price of video games, AAA video games, or they were going to include or start implementing more microtransactions for things like we're seeing here, like the ability to revive a down character, or the ability to edit how your character appearance, or even the ability to fast travel. Unfortunately, as I said, maybe that's something they would do, or they would combine. They would raise the price and include microtransactions. They would just do both. But I'm wondering, Logic, if this is kind of the future, it's going to be interesting, because it is going to be interesting to see how this thing works out for them. If Dragon Dogs, if the sales are impacted negatively by this, or there's no impact to sales and we see a decent uptick in microtransactions, people buying microtransactions for this game. But I'm just wondering, like, is this kind of the direction we're heading? What do you think?
My guess is this is a and don't this is not racist or culturally oriented, but a lot of I mean, we refer to a lot of what we see in mobile as as the gacha mechanic, right? And that is a term that is specifically kind of pointed at kind of Eastern and Asian game design. I think this level of what, in my opinion, is just crossing the line to egregiousness. I believe that that's something that, well, it's hard to say. I shouldn't say that we're only going to see that from Capcom, because it comes in different forms, right? People talk about the Destiny 2 stuff is sometimes egregious, but I'm like, but that's to me, that's a matter of scale, right? Where like 80% of it doesn't bother me, but there's just 20% on the outer edge that is over the top. But then I'm like, you know, along the lines of what you said today, where I'm like, okay, so you just don't buy that stuff. Like, it clearly stands out in the store as way more expensive than the other stuff, right? And then there's stuff like people sometimes think of things that are in Call of Duty, right, as egregious, but for those, I feel like, you know, they're things you can step around. So I think what I think is that this tiny sliver of what's going on here that is bothersome, I think is only going to come out of shops that are kind of have that gotcha mechanic thing kind of in the back of their minds, and it's kind of endemically sewn into the studio. I don't think we're necessarily going to see this everywhere. I think before we see that everywhere, we're just going to get just a straight up increase in the cost of AAA games.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I feel like if this thing is successful for them, and they see a lot of people, because, you know, time is a valuable commodity. We've talked about that on this show. And I wonder if this thing is successful for them in terms of people buying the microtransactions. Do other people start, and I'm not trying to, I know we talked about this earlier, you mentioned, you know, developers colluding. I don't think that goes on, but maybe that is something that maybe catches the eyes of other developers who are looking at ways to increase, you know, the revenue for their AAA games, you know, increase those profit margins. You know, if there's something that maybe catches on.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think definitely if this is successful, if this, and I hate to sound like I'm, you know, one of the picketers, right, in the strike line, but like, if this goes well, right, if gamers give this a pass, yeah, I mean, somebody's definitely going to pick, particularly when you consider, right, one of the other things that I was going to say, which is that Dragon's Dogma is not right. The original is not a banger. Like,
no, it's not. It's not.
it's an interesting game.
It's a cult classic.
It definitely shows some potential, right? But it's got a following. So they sold 7.9 million copies, right? And if this gets some type of groundswell or uptake, or if Capcom comes out and says, "Oh, hey, this thing like put up mega big dollars off of microtransactions," right? And you can do that math. You can say X number of units sold times $70, right? So how much of that was microtransactions? If that's the story, then yeah, I mean, I think, you know, particularly games that have a stronger following.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, I'm sorry, Logic. I'm actually responding to someone about whether or not we're in a recession here in the U.S. All right. Josh says, I don't know the last Capcom game that not to have microtransactions. And that's the other thing people were saying too today. You asked me earlier what some of the feedback conversation was on social media about microtransactions in Dragon's Dogma 2. People were saying, oh, this isn't new for Capcom. They've done this before. And that may lean into kind of what you were just saying about that mindset existing within that studio.
Well, my pushback to that is, I mean, did we give Starfield a pass because it committed crimes that every prior Bethesda game had? That wasn't an argument that I entertained with regards to Starfield. I don't give a crap what, like, I had problems with the Bethesda fandom before for constantly giving Todd Howard and Bethesda a pass. There were things Bethesda did before they were ever part of Xbox that I didn't appreciate.
Yeah.
I was never a huge fan of Bethesda games. And I'm not tuned to grade them on a curve because of things that they've done before that other people have considered acceptable. It's not my job to establish my rubric based on what everybody else accepts.
Yeah. Josh, we're not saying you're giving it a pass, by the way.
Yeah, no. And Josh, look, I know I sound probably heated. That's because I've been arguing about this all day. I'm not heated at you guys in the chat.
Logic, you came lathered up today. Yeah.
Yeah, and just real quick, I know Capone's been asking me questions. I've been trying to surf this in the background. I think Capone, I'm pretty sure I have built in the 011 DEW, which is the Evo version of the regular Evo version size of the case, which is already a big, huge Super Mongo case. I think it's like 68 or 69 cubic liters. But the XL version of the case, I think, is the 011 DEX, which is the larger case. So I have built in the, I have not built in the 011 Evo XL, which is just the way these things are numbered on Amazon. It's really hard. I've had to double check like multiple times to make sure that when I was even ordering it, that I was ordering the right thing.
Yeah, I don't disagree. So, look, I don't have an issue with microtransactions per se. Like and I said this earlier because sometimes like microtransactions, that word tends to be kind of a word that gets people, as you say, logic lathered up.
Well, it's people weaponize it.
Yeah, and I always say, and I said this earlier today too. I said, look, at the end of the day, you don't have to buy it. It's a choice, and I get that. But I will say this though. The charging for fast travel, and I get it, you can earn in game, but again, it goes, but even that, finding that item, it's apparently a rare item, and the fact that you have to, put in extra work, extra grind to find something that, if you compare it to other open world games, is a core, I don't even know what I'm saying, a core design mechanic in a game. Like the fact that you either have to grind for it or buy it, that just doesn't sit well with me personally.
And it's a core element of the genre, right? Yeah. That's the thing that really chaps me, right, about it. Is at this point there are things that you would come to expect and that you would think would be an endemic part of the design of an open world RPG.
Exactly. Yeah. And even to an extent, the revive and the other one, the character, changing your character appearance too. I mean, those are staples of these types of games. And so, but again, I mean, I said this earlier, like I don't, like I always tell people, you don't have to buy them. But my concern is it's, and now I'm thinking, and I said this to you earlier, like remember Horse Armor? Remember how people up in arms about Horse Armor all those years ago? And look how the industry's kind of like progressed with microtransactions. And then I look at this, I'm like, well, what's next? And look, I'm not trying to fearmonger. I'm just saying, like, if I look at microtransactions since, what was it Horse Armor in Oblivion? I forget now. I think it was Oblivion. Elder Scrolls Oblivion. That was what, 2006 is when that game came out, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think it sounds about right.
Yeah, and look how it's progressed now to the point where you have to grind to find a particular item that would let you fast travel or buy it. That to me, again, I don't want to sound like one of those individuals who's fear mongering, but that concerns me a little bit. Like, and I keep thinking, okay, what's next? Like, how far down the rabbit hole are they going to go with microtransactions now? And maybe they won't. Maybe they won't. Maybe this thing doesn't work out, and Capcom's like, you know what? We tried it. Wasn't a good idea. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that.
And again, it's like for me, it's less about how far they go down the road with microtransactions in terms of like how many they make or something. It's about how tightly woven, and I think that's the thing that I'm landing on. It's a matter of kind of how tightly woven they are into the game's design, such that there has to have been some arbitrariness, right, in things that they selected that do impact you, whether you participate in microtransactions or not.
Yeah. Brian E says, let's recognize at the very least that there's no paywall here. There's no point where you die and a window pops up open saying you've used up all your lives in game. Go here to buy more.
But the thing I want to jump on with that is, but to me, understand what I would say is I think this is a correlation that you have to draw. As early in the games industry as the design of Tempest, there were metrics around the difficulty of the game to drive the player into how frequently they inserted quarters into the machine. That practice, that kind of endemic iron underlying foundation with regards to monetization, that didn't go away. That hasn't been squeegeed out of the industry. That same underlying philosophy is what is wrapped into microtransactions. And it has an impact on design choices that are being made for the game. You do not pay for a gaming economist and the developer time and the creative director and producer time and all of the other people's time, the tester's time, because all that stuff has to be tested, configuration management. So you don't pay for all that time without wiring into the game what your return is. The finance guy doesn't calculate what the expectation on return of the game is based solely on the $70 sale. He's making those calculations based on the microtransactions. And that's an ongoing conversation, right, with the dev team, so that everybody's truing up to the same expectation, so that you don't come up to an earnings call and say, this game underperformed. And so that notion, how those things filter into the game's design, are the things that I find that could potentially be bothersome. And again, right, like, please understand and please apply nuance and sophistication to the conversation. I am not saying, and I have not ever said, that I'm bothered by all of the microtransactions in the game. What I'm saying is that the subgenre of open world RPGs has a much tighter coupling to the notion of fast travel and character editing than other elements that those microtransactions are wrapped around. And that's the thing that I find bothersome. I would be also similarly bothered if there were things wrapped around driving elements, right, in a racing game, like leveling up driving things from a microtransaction perspective. If there was something that I felt like I could tangibly feel, right, in going around the track, or how well I performed on the track that was somehow gated by a microtransaction. Those are things that would tip off an alarm, and that's what I'm saying. And yeah, and the other thing, I'll go back to is, I think the other thing to realize and understand, right, before people like go flying over the wall about this, right, is this is not a review discussion. At no point have I ever said, or has BRAP ever said, the game is trash, right? I haven't played it. I haven't bought it. A large part of the discussion that I have, and what I posted on Twitter today, is the first job of a game is to convince gamers that it's worth their time to be bothered to get down out of their seat and go play the game. There's a certain minimum bar, a minimum expectation that needs to be set. I would think that having spent all the time that Capcom has spent working on Dragon's Dogma 2, I guess some 12 years, I would think that their internal sales expectations for the game would be to sell more than the 7.9 million copies that they sold last time. And what I'm saying is that there's a mixture of things and design choices that they have done that work counter to that. That their KPI, their business objective, should be to sell more than 7.9 million copies. And the things that they've done and the delivery that they've made, in my mind, are, like, counter that effort. And specifically on PC, right, it's the microtransactions around fast travel, the microtransactions around character editing, the fact that they deployed the game with only one save slot. Like, so the fourth item I would say is $70 for PC, $70 on PC, which I don't think is a showstopper, but it is a look, right? You're going to put a game up for $70 on PC on Steam. That needs to be a pretty damn good delivery. And so you come in with the $70 swagger, you put microtransactions in front of these two things, You now tell PC gamers who have spent $1,500 upwards to have typically multi-terabytes of storage in their PC that they've got one game save slot. And then you're going to put out the comment today, mea culpa, we're working on a fix. Nah, bruh, that shouldn't have been an afterthought. That shouldn't have been, right, and oh, by the way, that shouldn't have been something that needs to be fixed in hindsight. I think as a PC gamer for a very long time, that an underlying expectation of the freedom and choice that PC offers is not to have those types of restrictions put in my windshield. Right? One of the first things I fell in love with on the PC was save anywhere. And that's an expectation I have. I have an expectation that for most games that I play, to at any point hit the escape button and to be able to save the game and get up and walk away, go use the bathroom, take a shit, right? Stop, check on a crying kid, whatever, right? I mean, I complain about the same thing with Destiny 2, and I love Destiny 2, but like that business that you can't pause the game, that's bothersome to me to this day. But so you fill out that bingo card, right, of things that are a problem, and that's a bad look at launch. And then, you expect to go out and sell this game in big numbers. To me, that's a problem. BRAP, are you back, or did you have to step away for a minute?
Oh, I'm back. I'm sorry. I was just listening.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. I was surprised by the single game file thing. Like that was a little odd to me, especially with the character creation. Like we talked about earlier, like there's in these types of games, you often, and I did this with Baldur's Gate 3, you often will have multiple playthroughs with different characters or different character builds.
Right. Again, that is a thing that to me is tightly woven into the expectation of how an open world RPG behaves on a PC.
Absolutely. Corey Masters in live chat. If I'm compelled to fast travel in your open world game, I don't play your game. There's no point to an open world if you skip the open world. So Corey, most open world games that I've played, you don't get those fast travel checkpoints until you explore the open world. It's only after you've explored a certain part of the world you get that checkpoint or that travel point in a game. And then you have the option if you want to not use those. Some people want, like I'm someone, once I explore an open world and I've unlocked that point, that travel point, like I don't want to have to trek all the way back to the map. I'm just gonna do fast travel.
Oh, and let me put the cherry on top of this thing.
That's fair if you don't want to use it. Like, I'm not saying like you're wrong if you want to, if you want to, travel across the map again. That's just not something that I care to do. But having that option there is something that I appreciate because it's something that I use. And if you don't, that's fair. That's fine. But go ahead, Logic.
Yeah, and let me put the cherry on top of the thing that really kind of torques me off. It torques me off in terms of like makes me not want to buy it. Again, on PC, poor hardware performance optimization. That is a no pass. I'm not doing that. Right? Like the expectation is that you put a game out and that it performs on a wide array of hardware. And that if somebody's throwing $3,000 worth of equipment at it, that you get improvements. Right? But that also, if you came to the fight with the minimum hardware PC spec, that the game should run, right? You're not going to get bells and whistles, right? But the game should run. And if you throw a little more power at it, right, the game should scale. Like it shouldn't be 3 notches on a post, right? And those are the performance bands that it performs in, right? And outside of that, you're just screwed. Like that to me is problem. And so my overall synopsis, right, on why this has been a dark day for Dragon's Dogma 2 is because those 5 things, right, filling out the bingo card for this game at launch on PC are bad. That all resulted in universal bad.
Yeah, no, I hear your logic. And again, we're not saying the game's trash. We haven't played it. But Capcom did actually release a statement. They actually they addressed this on Steam. They said, to all Dragon's Dogma 2 players, we would like to update you on the status of the following items, about which we have received numerous comments from the community. To all those looking forward to this game, we sincerely apologize for any inconvenience. Crashes and bug fixes. We are investigating fixing critical problems such as crashes and freezing. We will be addressing crashes and bugs and bug fixes starting from those with the highest priority in patches in the near future. The option of starting a new game. We are looking to adding a feature to the Steam version of the game that will allow players that are already playing to restart the game. We will announce more details as soon as we can. Jeez, wow. Paid DLC. All items listed below can be attained in-game or as paid DLC items. And they go down the list of the character editor, change pawn inclinations, warp location marker, restore the dead to life, those things. Regarding frame rate, a large amount of CPU usage is allocated to each character and calculating the impact of their physical presence in various areas. In certain situations where numerous characters appear simultaneously, the CPU usage can be very high and may affect the frame rate. We are aware that in such situations, settings that reduce GPU load may currently have a limited effect. However, we are looking into ways to improve performance in the future. So that was their response today at 6:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, and I mean, two other things I'll mention is let's all look at the clock, look at the calendar, and look at what the date is. It's the 22nd of March. When does Capcom's fiscal year end? March 31st.
Yeah, it's the end of the month now.
If there hasn't been a larger corroboration and endorsement of the fact that this is Dragon's Dogma 2 marketing team edition, then I don't know what is. You guys will get the developers team edition here in about a month probably. But like again, like that's the type of optic that this thing has, right? This is the type of thing that says I'm not paying $70 for the marketing team edition. The thing that came in hot so that the sales numbers could be met. Screw that noise. Like, again, what did I say the other night? Was it you? Or maybe I said this on DPS. I think it was on DPS. I think because they were asking me how I felt about the Marvel 1943 trailer. And I said, look, my philosophy for all these things is I get neither lathered up nor do I slag a game for how their trailer looks at launch that I'm not going to be playing the game for 2 more years. And what I always say is build your game, test your game, sell your game to me at full price, or put it on the marketplace at full price. Get some general baseline first couple of days buzz, and I'll buy your game. I'm generally not a day one guy. Like, you have to hit some minimum thresholds for me. And this game is not hitting those minimum thresholds, right? And I'm not going to support the devs, in air quotes, right? So that the marketing team and the sales team and the CFO can meet their numbers for the fiscal year.
Hey, man, you got to support the devs. Come on. Yeah, no, this is, all jokes aside, this is going to be a pass for me right now just because of some of the issues the game is having. I'm just going to wait. Yeah, I think Slow-Mo picked it up. I think he's kind of brute forced his way into, what does Slow-Mo have, a 4080?
He's got the 40. He's got the 4080 Super, and then I've got a 4080. And yes, good reminder. He does actually have it, and he says it is running fine on his PC, but it's running fine on his PC because he has the CPU he has, and he has the GPU that he has, right?
He's brute forcing it. Yeah.
Like, and look, every game that comes out today can't be Crysis.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and not for this game because their pedigree doesn't earn them that cred. Chris Coleman mentions in the chat, PC players usually don't even pay retail using CD keys. Lots of PC players balk at the idea of $79 games, blah, blah, blah. And I get that. I kind of understand it. But I also feel like one of the other differences, though, and developers should know this, is PC players, I would say especially Steam players, they don't give games passes. And so if you show up to the fight without your game well optimized, we're not listening to that Todd Howard, you may need to upgrade your PC BS. That will get you a 30-something% approval rating on Steam, right? So I don't know. I don't personally feel that it's devs are slow to optimize. I think devs take calculated risks. Now maybe, and again this is a textbook example. Really, this is another thing I wanted to mention. This to me is really a great case study for a game that maybe arguably should have prioritized around releasing on console first and staggering their PC release. You know, if the console people are generally happy with the game, I will say, because partially a lot of them are going to say they're okay with 4K 30. But if they're okay with the game, then maybe they should have prioritized the console release and then gone to PC when they were ready. I'll say for me personally, I don't have any problems paying $70 for, like, this whole thing of like, oh, nobody on PC is going to pay $70 for a game. That doesn't bother me one bit or one iota. But what I'm not going to do is I learned my lesson one time. It only took the one time. I don't sleep on Steam user community reviews. If the Steam user community asserts and corroborates that a game is not good, that it's buggy, that it's problematic, that it doesn't perform well at launch, I'm going with that much more so than I will Metacritic. In fact, in my personal system, the Steam user community review overrides and trumps the Metascore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that at all, Logic. Want to grab the super chat from Craig, the tech guy. The $2 super chat says, PS5 Pros for people who play Mass Effect. Thank you for that super chat. Yeah, any other thoughts on Dragon's Dogma 2? That's actually a good segue there, Craig. Thank you. Before we move on to PS5 Pro.
I think the only other thing I wanted to mention is, that the comment about the $70 games, and somebody also had mentioned Horizon Zero Dawn, right? It's also like you're launching on the same day as Horizon Zero Dawn or Horizon. What is the new Forbidden West?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're launching on the same day of that, and as far as I can tell, that game is immaculate.
Yeah, actually, Digital Foundry did a video breakdown on the PC performance of that game, and they said it runs very well. It's well optimized. So,
and Paul's asking, could it be Japanese game devs are falling behind the software engineering side of gaming? No, I don't think so. But that's also because I'm currently in this rut of where I feel like Americans don't understand video gaming, and an American company will never be able to rise to dominance in the gaming industry because the Asian companies have it right. So that's clouding my judgment right now, Paul.
All right, let's go to PlayStation 5 Pro. So, Logic, I've seen a couple articles out there asking who the PlayStation 5 Pro is for. There's one article in particular I was trying to find it while you were talking about Dragon's Dogma 2, and I couldn't find it. But there was an article, maybe it was Eurogamer, I think. Let me go try there. But there was an article about the PlayStation 5 Pro, and the headline of the article was basically that even today, there aren't many games that take advantage of the PlayStation 5, the base PlayStation 5 model. And so, what's kind of the purpose of the PlayStation 5 Pro? And I feel like we have this conversation anytime there's a new hardware device that's either, rumored or coming out, especially with the Pro models, right? This was the same conversation last generation. Who is this thing for? And, as we've said on the show on many occasions, for people who want better performance, who want the latest and greatest in technology, and while they may not be the majority of the console base, they are people out there willing to spend money for upgrading their hardware at the halfway point in the console lifecycle. So what are your thoughts about the PS5 Pro, Logic? Who this is for, and the thought that this idea that, well, we don't really have games to take advantage of the PlayStation 5, so, what's a PS5 Pro going to do?
Yeah, I mean, the point of hardware is to give developers resources for them to maximize their game design. That's it. Right? That's the reason for the existence of hardware. That's the reason why we constantly edge the performance capability of hardware forward. And that edging forward always occurs first, and then the games come after. So the other thing that we need to consider, because the reason we're bringing this up is because I mentioned a BRAP. I quite honestly heard some horrible takes by mainstream gaming media who are paid to do this for a living. but still don't understand the underlying technologies even at the basic level, which I just fail to understand. One of the things we have to consider is that there are people who the new console.
Logic. Real quick,
Yeah,
sorry. GameIndustry.biz actually ran the opinion piece. And I'll read a quote. The reality is that with some exceptions, the PlayStation 5 doesn't have many games that are pushing its limits. The advantage of a Pro console will be harder to see as a consequence. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, and I don't have any problem with GameIndustry.biz. I mean, one of the things we've talked about with GameIndustry.biz, and we do recommend you read that that outlet on the site. We recommend that you read that outlet on the site for its news and for its analysis reporting. But they do run op-eds on the site, which, again, I think there's part of the gaming community that doesn't understand what an op-ed is. An op-ed is definitively and institutionally is an opinion piece written by a writer, an editor on the staff of the publication that is not necessarily right in sync with the philosophies of the publication itself. Right, that is their journalistic outlet that they get. So I've often seen people like trying to slag a GameIndustry.biz op-ed as if it's the publication actually writing it. I'm like, no, you need to understand what the definition of an op-ed is. But at any rate, I mean, so a lot of the takes that I heard today were about kind of like you said, BRAP, like, who is this for? Nobody needs this. Nobody wants it. And I'm like, there's a few things. What we need to understand is that there are people who at the launch of the generation who will say, and they're part of the crowd on the other end of the timeline, who say, why are we upgrading these consoles now? Right? We don't need it. Right? These like the last, like Xbox One and PS4 aren't maxed out. And those people don't buy, right at the beginning. The PlayStation 5 has sold 50 million. Right? Clearly there are PlayStation 4 owners who haven't bought a PlayStation 5. Yeah, like it's kind of to me it's a dumb question. Who is the PlayStation 5 Pro for? Well, there's 70 freaking million people who are still on PlayStation 4s, right? They're all an addressable market and potential customers. And maybe people who haven't bought a PS5 yet. And so maybe what they're going to say is they're going to say, hey, now, there's a handful of games out and, I see a game that's come along that I am going to play, or I'm going to buy my pre-GTA 6 unit, whatever. I think a lot of the discussions being attached to GTA 6, and I don't feel for every consumer, it's all about GTA 6. I think it's just about wanting a certain number of games at volume that make you feel justified, right, in making that purchase. Mm-hmm. I think we ignore consumer behaviors like, somebody saw Forbidden West, somebody saw Spider-Man 2, but they said, hey, those two games by themselves, that's not enough to make me jump in the pool. Right. But later this year, maybe some game's going to come out. They're going to say, okay, at this point now, like I'm going to buy that game and these two games that I just put on a list, right? But I didn't buy right away. Or maybe they bought the PlayStation 4 version and they're going to, I forget exactly how it works, but they're, when they log into their PS5 Pro, they're magically going to get the upgrade. So I think consumer scenarios like that exist. So I think, like I said, I think there's people who stayed out of the pool and waited, and when it comes time for them to buy, they're gonna be like, why would I buy the baseline unit when like the new Pro is available? So they'll buy that. I think another thing that we haven't yet seen, my fear is that they're not gonna do this, but I would really like it. I like custom versions of consoles, right? Collector's editions of consoles. I know PlayStation has gone this whole route with the plates, which I'm not super crazy about, but when I bought my PlayStation 4 Pro, one of the things was like I wanted an edition at launch, so I bought that. But the whole time I had it, I was like, man, I'd really like to get a collector's edition, but I don't want to buy a collector's edition just for the collector's edition. But when the Pro came along, right, I went ahead and got my collector's edition and upgraded to the Pro. So I think so much of the gaming journalist conversation that I heard today was all about people who have PlayStation 5s now. And I'm like, first of all, there is a viable reason for them to upgrade because, as I mentioned last night and before, that person's going to take their PlayStation 5 down to GameStop, go see Brother Forte, right? Trade that PlayStation 5 in, get $325, $350. He claims they're giving you $402 now. I decided not to argue with him about that.
Are they really giving $402?
That's what he said. He gave some number that was in excess of like the 350 number that I quoted.
I mean that is very generous on their part if they're giving PlayStation 5 the trade-in $402. I mean,
yeah. Let's just
yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, because if this thing comes in $550, like, and they're giving you $400, like, yeah, that would be. I honestly, I would at that point, I would trade in my PlayStation 5.
And for me, Pro, even if it's 600 or 650, if they're going to give me something that approaches or exceeds like 50% of the purchase price of the, I think that's in the ballpark for me. So my point is, I think that there will be some appeal, for people going in and buying it. The other thing is, and I know console players aren't PC players, et cetera, but like, I don't know. I think like there are plenty of people. So there's part of the consumer market that are like the iPad people, like a bulk of the iPad people. A bulk of the iPad problem is people don't upgrade the damn thing until the last one breaks, right? They don't necessarily see the reason in the next iteration to upgrade to the next thing. So they hold on to their iPads for a long time. There are certain consumer markets or certain parts of markets like that. But there are also large parts that are like, hey, when a new thing's available that performs better than the last thing I had, yeah, I'm going to get that. Because I always want the overhead. I always want the additional performance. I'm going to keep this thing for a long time. I always want the potential. So I think there's a lot of, going back to the question you asked, which was, why do we have this conversation every single time? I'm okay with people having there should definitely be a conversation of let's write the profile of the type of consumer that this thing is for, right? And again, advertise that as in the name of consumer advocacy and consumer education. But what a lot of these people have is they always have this binary discussion. Like, do you need it? Do we need it? Do we not need it? And I'm like, you're not the whole market. Like, we say this every week. You're not the whole market. You're one person. You have one perspective. Lots of us don't care about what your own individual perspective is. Great, Scott, you work at a stinking magazine where there are PlayStation 5 sitting around, right, the building that you can just go play, right? Like, let's like really have a detailed discussion about like who's the type of person that this is for. And I think, like I said, it's the person who's willing to trade in, because we've had this discussion this whole generation too, right? Who's the PlayStation Portal for? Who's the PSVR 2 for? Who are the earbuds for? They're for the people who exist in the PlayStation ecosystem, who's like the Apple people. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely, I think there's definitely a reason for it. I think it's fine. I don't know why people have to act offended that a PlayStation 5 Pro is coming out. I don't know why the Xbox people have to get all lathered up about, well, what are we getting? Or making fun of the PlayStation people, saying that they're being told that they need to go buy a new console. No, that's not what they're being told. In fact, they're being told that they're just fine on their old console if they don't want to upgrade, because the games are still going to be supported to have scalable settings that work across both sets of hardware.
Yeah, you know what I'm wondering too? I heard you say something about GTA 6, and we talked about this on Crossfire, and I was just thinking about how Sony approaches their marketing deals with third-party developers, right? Whether it's, marketing rights or exclusivity, and, they have some history with Rockstar, at least with Grand Theft Auto, they did many, many, many years ago, PlayStation 2, but I was thinking like, and obviously the GTA 6 isn't going to come out for months after the PlayStation 5 Pro's release, but I'm also wondering if this could be a play for Sony where they would maybe do something, and I'm not saying that this is going to happen. I was just spitballing here, but I was thinking, if this might be something where with the PlayStation 5 Pro and GTA 6, if they kind of leverage the release of GTA 6 to the benefit of their platform. Say, hey, look, if you want to play the best version of a console version of, and there's not going to be a PC version at launch, so the PS5 Pro will be the definitive version, I would assume, to play Grand Theft Auto 6. I'm just curious. I'm just wondering if if that might be something that Sony leverages to, sell more PlayStation 5 Pros. Because GTA 6 is going to be, that's going to suck all the air out of the room when in the industry.
Bongo.
Yeah,
it's going to be bongo.
Would you be surprised if the first I forget Call of Duty numbers. Did Call of Duty do like $500 million in 2 days or something in sales?
Well, I think the thing we should quote is I can't remember what game most recently. I guess Hogwarts Legacy just did it last year.
Yeah,
there have in the past I'll call it decade, and I'm just kind of very loose hand. It's loose hand wavy on the timeline, but the titles are very true. In the past decade, there have only been a small handful of titles that have been the best-selling game of the year that have not been Call of Duty or GTA. Those two titles are literally the Dallas Cowboys and give me one other football, and I guess the New England Patriots. Two different timelines, but they have literally been the two that have had the chokehold on the dynasties of the gaming industry Super Bowl for like the last decade.
Yeah. I fully expect them to record over $1 billion worth of sales week one, GTA with Grand Theft Auto 6. Easily.
And look, BRAP, we're not even talking. As far as we know, we don't know yet, but probably we're not even talking about GTA 6 online yet. We're just talking about the single player campaign.
Oh, GTA 6 is going to print money. The online component of it. You saw what happened with GTA 5. Remember, it was charting NPD for like years.
Right.
Because people were just buying it for the shark cards. It was like,
because we discuss sales on E2 enough to keep going all the time, and we're like, great. So like, how does this game keep coming up on the charts like this? Like, doesn't everybody have this game already? Like, and the thing is people talk about Minecraft, but I'm like, GTA 5 doesn't get given away. Like, it doesn't go on steep. Like, you pay for GTA 5. Yeah, so
they don't give it away.
So I guess another thing we should say too about the one other thing I'll say about GTA 6 for Rockstar, what I believe Rockstar's mindset is that they want to push the envelope of the performance of GTA 6 as far as they can on whatever hardware they can get their hands on, and push it as far as possible prior to the PC release. So that performance-wise, they have gone as far as they can with the ability to get real-world telemetry back right on its performance before they have to deploy to PC. Mm-hmm. I think that is useful data for them to have, and I think that is data that's contributory to their development pipeline. Mm-hmm. And so, if they can get their hands on a PS5 Pro, they will. We've had this talk recently, right, about how like hardware optimization is budget and cost, and it has to be managed and allocated. And the amount of time that a developer can spend, that a team of developers can spend optimizing on a certain hardware target, is going to be based around the choice of where do they think it's going to sell best. So, I think if they can get their hands on the PS5 Pro and they're going to spend the time tuning it right for that platform, in the hopes to make it as powerful as and performant as they can before they have to deploy to PC.
Yeah.
I think the other thing I want to bring up about the PlayStation 5 Pro that we talked about earlier today is I think a lot of new gamers who are in the world don't remember and don't understand that console generations today are twice as long as we were accustomed to historically. So until Generation 6, console generations were typically only 4 years. And so this whole notion is why I kind of find it funny. Oh my God, it's a mid-life cycle update. I'm like, no, it's like the same timeline that we grew up with, right? Because typically you would get the new thing in 4 years. So I don't think it's completely wackadoodle, right, and out of this world, right, to get a midstream upgrade at kind of the 4 year point in a console life cycle.
Yeah. Regarding GTA 6, I'm reading some articles here. Per CNBC, analysts are saying that the move would be designed to boost interest in the PlayStation 5 and offer a souped-up piece of hardware ready for the release of Grand Theft Auto 6 in 2025. Yeah, so that's what I was thinking. Like, they could certainly tout the PS5 Pro or PlayStation in general, just from a brand perspective, as being the best place to experience what's arguably the largest launch of any game in over a decade.
I mean, arguably in history,
or maybe in history. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Like I said, I mean, the Call of Duty Modern Warfare game in 2023 did $1 billion in sales week one. I mean, I think GTA 6 is going to crush that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's bad timing or a bad idea for them to get it out a year ahead, right? I mean, we still don't know what date GTA 6 is coming, but I think it's fine to get that unit out, get some get some numbers on the street in the install base, so that you have enough units out there for sell through. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I bought the PS4 Pro came out, and I sat for a year, and I listened to experiences people had playing on it, but I was like, but when I want to say it was Dishonored 2 that came out the following year, 2017, which was also, and I was also planning on buying because I was a diehard Xbox fan. I was also already buying the Scorpio. So, but because of that, I was like, well, I'm not going to have the Scorpio and not have the PS4 Pro, right, sitting side by side. So, but it was at the point where it had been out for a year, and when I heard Dishonored 2 really benefited from running on the PS4 Pro, that I went ahead and jumped in. So, I think having that out and giving Sony, giving PlayStation some opportunities to get software operating system updates out to optimize its performance and get a good number of titles kind of with those PS5 Pro enhancements on the street too. I think all that's going to help for GTA 6 and Sony in the long run.
Yeah, I'm just honestly, for me, I'm on the fence of whether or not I'll pick up a PlayStation 5 Pro. I think for me, it just really depends on the trading value and how much the console is going to cost. And it's funny, like we were discussing what we thought the cost of the console might be on Crossfire last night, and I remember having the conversation last generation with the PlayStation 4 Pro. We would think it was going to be like $600. People are landing on that $600 price point again. Given that the price point now is $500 for the base PlayStation 5. Given the issues Sony's had with profit margins, last time they released a PlayStation 4 Pro, they actually dropped the price of the base PlayStation 4. I think they released the PlayStation 4 Pro, if I'm not mistaken, at about $400, and they dropped the base PlayStation 4 to $300. I don't know if they're going to do that this time, and I only say that just because of some of the issues that they've that we're aware of with their their lower profit margins. So to me, it would be a $600 price point may be realistic in this instance, but who knows?
Yeah, it's a tough call, right? Because and I'm guilty of it too. I mean, we had the same conversation on DPS. We've had it on BRAP. I think one thing, admittedly, we've all missed is we've all had this conversation about the PS5 Pro launch in comparison to the PS4 Pro, as if the PS4 Pro launched in a bubble. But it didn't. At that point, it wasn't a done deal that Xbox was out of the game. We also knew the Xbox Scorpio was coming. The Xbox Scorpio launched at $499. So there was some scratch, right, for PlayStation to come in, and they didn't know the Scorpio was launching at $499. But I'm sure they were game theorying it, right, and trying to figure it out. But my point is that whatever competitive intelligence they had at the time, there was some scratch for them coming in low, right, to kind of lock down the generation. They have this generation on lock already. So, I mean, that could make them go high, because as we've been talking about this whole generation. There is no real viable competitor. There is no real suitable substitute on the market. And that could cause them to go high.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, without like a, Series X Pro, whatever competitor, they could come in and say $600. And that's the only choice if you want a pro console.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a great point. Think about that.
Yeah. But I mean, but by the same token, it could also say we don't need to go high. Like, I don't know. I don't know exactly how it's going to come out. Yeah. I agree with you. I don't think that they're going to drop the price on the PS5. I think they have. My prediction is they're going to do the same thing they did last time. There will be no two SKUs of the PS5 Pro.
Yeah.
There'll be one. It'll have the optical drive. That'll be the top line unit. The regular PS5 with the optical drive will be the midline unit. And the digital will be the low. I think maybe there's an outside chance that at that point they'll take the option to lower the price on the digital by $50 to get it back to the $400 price point. I could see them doing that. I could see them having pitched the price up by $50, and maybe have returned to green right on what they needed for that unit. Maybe.
By the way, Tom Henderson actually reported a couple of days ago that the PlayStation 5 Pro will also have a detachable disk drive.
Oh, did he really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I just saw that. I just came across that. Yeah, I didn't realize that either.
Okay, well, there you go.
That could lower the price too. Not having that, that built-in disk drive.
That could keep them from pitching up to that high point of 650 that we've talked about.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually said on Crossfire, I because everyone was saying 600. I said, I'm gonna split the difference. I'm gonna go 550.
Yeah, I don't know. No,
maybe 550 is realistic without the disk drive.
Well, I tell you what. Again, I love these games. The price setting game is always interesting because I think this is sometimes what happens with the iPhone in previous, right? The top line, the middle iPhone, I think, is priced high enough in some years that it makes you go, hey, for $100 more, I can just get the top line thing. So I may as well just do that. So I will admit, at $550, what that does is it makes you say, hey, why would I get like the regular PlayStation 5 at $500? I might as well just spend the $50 extra and get the Pro.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then if you want the the disk drive, you'll go out and buy it later on. That's
right. Yeah, that's nice in that it's scalable.
Yeah. Yeah, if I'm a consumer, I'm in the store, I'm at Best Buy, and I'm looking at a PlayStation 5. One's $500, the other one's $550, and then the guy's like, hey, the one $550 is actually more powerful. A little more future proofing yourself there. Like I'd probably pull the trigger on the PS5 Pro.
Yeah,
that's me. That's me.
I wouldn't hold my breath for it, but yeah, there's. I mean, the big thing for me, as I mentioned in the BRAP chat, like, look, if they put something out that isn't this freaking sculpted water pitcher from, that looks like something like Da Vinci sculpted out of clay in the Sistine Chapel, then like I'll buy that in a heartbeat. That, and particularly if it's space saving and doesn't take up as much Mongo space on my gaming desk as this thing does. Yeah, I'll buy that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I need this thing to have RGBs. By the way, they do that, I'm sold day one. Yeah, I said that on Crossfire too. It's like I don't like the design of the PlayStation 5. I think it's ugly. I've never been a big fan of it.
Yeah, that is a thing that I would definitely give the nod to Xbox for.
Yeah, I think the Xbox Series X design is better. But then I was like, as we were discussing this on Crossfire yesterday, I think it was Mooch who says like, well, perhaps they like to sell those plates. I'm like, oh yeah, so maybe the design will be the same.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. Look, I know that they might not do it, but I would love for them to get rid of the plates and do an actual like collector's edition.
No, I don't disagree.
Or collector's editions, yeah.
Yeah, I would too, but I don't think they will. I think that costs more money for them to do that, right? It's probably
It does.
easier to do the
It
plates
does.
than actual do. Because I remember like somebody asked Aaron Greenberg one time on Twitter, like, Aaron, why don't you guys do more custom consoles? Blah blah blah. He's like, it's very expensive to do, and they don't sell a lot.
Right. Yeah, it definitely does. I just,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, Warwana's like, yes, do the plates.
Yeah, I know. I know.
I like the plates. It's easy, swap them out. You know, you could have an abundance of custom plates in your house for your PlayStation. That's what I like about it.
Yeah, but by the same token, they could also just sell me a collector's edition, and I don't have to be bothered with the plates at all.
That's true.
I will also say, look, I know you PlayStation guys like to give people a hard time for complaining about, putting but like if I go out and buy an appliance, I'm buying an appliance because I don't want to be bothered cracking it open. And I don't want to be bothered by having to put an upgrade drive in there. The other thing is, like, the PlayStation 4, I want to say, like that had a design that you didn't have to break the thing open. You just slid the cover off and pulled the hard drive out and slapped a new one in and slid it back on.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to hold my breath on a new design for the PlayStation 5 Pro, but we'll see. Man, maybe they have something in store, but I'm not holding my breath. The other thing Sony related, by the way, Logic, is if you saw the Circana numbers, the MPD numbers, Helldivers 2, number 1 for the month of February.
Go ahead. You need to understand. I'm in the middle of the wrestling ring, like The Rock or Stone Cold, just waving you to get up.
Look, it's the top selling game for the month of February. They have a bona fide hit here, and Democracy's still waiting for you.
No. Go ahead and go through. Go ahead and go through the rest of the list because I'm waiting to jump on you when you with the one that you skip.
Oh, hold on a sec here. I need to. Now I got to pull up the list again. Pull up Matt Piscatella here on Twitter. Here we go. All right, let's look at the MPD numbers here real quick. All right, top 20 best-selling premium games in the U.S. for the month of February. Helldivers 2 is number 1. Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth is 2.
Exclusive matter.
I was told exclusives are criminal.
I was told they were anti-consumer.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look at that. Two Sony PlayStation exclusive titles, 1 and 2 on MPD. Helldivers 2 is a bona fide hit for them. I mean, I forget the numbers that came out from Christopher Dring at.
I think it was 8 million.
Yeah, it was, but he also said about 8 million copies sold. But he said that like in its third week, the sales have increased 70%, and that's unusual because usually after week 1, the sales trail off about 60-80%. I think it was.
Right.
Yeah. Where's the? Hold on a second. We'll look at the. That's Nintendo. Where's the other list he had here? I can't find it now. I think Helldivers might be number 4. That's Xbox.
What, for the year?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's really early going, so.
Yeah. Helldivers 2 is actually the top top played game on Steam. So it's the number 1, followed by Power World.
We don't talk about Power World.
Let's see here. Yep, year to date, ending 2020. And again, I know it's early. That's 2 months into the year, but Helldivers 2 is number 1 right now. Obviously, that's going to change as the year goes on. Also, the speaking of Final Fantasy, the Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth Twin Pack, the bundle for both games, debuted at number 16 for the month of February.
On the overall chart or on the PlayStation chart?
Oh, I'm sorry. Debuted number 8. I'm sorry.
Oh wow, jeez.
Yeah, MPD. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, just the single copy, number 2, and then the bundle of Rebirth and Remake was number. What did I say? Where I just lost it here. Number 8.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. So
what we also need to mention before I'm encouraged to give you a Stone Cold Stunner is Skull and Bones came in at number 4. It's pretty damn amazing, if you ask me.
Yeah, I was surprised by that, to be honest with you.
And here we go yet again, with why Warner Brothers does the things that they do. Suicide Squad coming in at number 7.
Yeah, Suicide Squad's at number 7 right now. Yep.
So don't look. Every time these things happen, people go, "Why is Warner Brothers doing that? Why is Warner?" Look at where this is. Look at where Gotham Knights wound up at. Right? It's just they make their decision. Well, I'm not gonna give Warner Brothers the credit. Warner Brothers is maybe that one company that I said all the people sit around the table and do the math and say it would be more profitable to do a thing, and then they do the exact opposite. That's the one company that I would say today it might not pass that litmus test.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
And Nintendo, as always, with a ton of titles. On the Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora squeaking in at number 20 from Ubisoft.
Yeah,
multiple months on the MPD top charts.
Yeah, but all jokes aside, I mean, exclusives do matter, and this is. I know we talked about this on Wednesday with Tim, and this is the thing that drives me crazy. That you have, and I said this on Crossfire last night too. Like you literally have certain segments of the Xbox community who argue against their own self-interest. Like I said this on Wednesday. Like your first party games, your exclusive games are going to showcase the hardware, take advantage of the hardware. They're often the most optimized, best performing games for that particular platform. Why argue against that?
Nintendo has 3 titles here on the top 20. These charts don't even include their digital numbers. And you do not hear the Nintendo community clamoring about exclusives don't matter. There should be less of them. Let's get our games on other platforms.
No, you don't. You don't. It's just a weird thing. I just don't understand that perspective.
Well, BRAP is because all the kids are going to be playing on tablets and phones, and and every screen's an Xbox, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I still play that Mattel handheld football game. Yep.
It's criminal. It's criminal that we need these titles on every platform. We see what's going on with the industry.
Oh my god. Yeah, I don't understand. I'm really not trying to pick on the and it's not everyone in the Xbox community, but there are certain content creators out there that are Xbox centric. Influencers that are Xbox centric, and what I don't understand is that this is, I think I mentioned this on Wednesday with Tim. If I didn't mention it on Wednesday, I did last night when Tim was on Crossfire as well. But the observation that I've had with the Xbox community is it's never been about now, right? Like you buy a console for, like we talked about this, like you buy a console for the enjoyment of it today, right? You don't wait for it to pay dividends like you would maybe, like when you buy a stock, right? The stock market, you're not. That's not what a console's meant to do. But if I go back to like the start of the Xbox One era, elements of that community were doing the same thing. Oh, wait till they free up more ESRAM. Wait till DX10 comes or DX11 or whatever it was. It's the same. It's like it's been this consistent pattern of wait to this, wait to that. Oh, Game Pass is going to change the industry. It's going to shake up the industry. It's going to make Sony change their business plans. And none of that has none of that has happened at all.
Yeah. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's weird. And again, this has been a problem. This has been an issue with certain elements of that community that I've been seeing for the last 11 years. I go back to when I first met Tim. I remember that. I was part of that. I used to be one of those guys. Wait till ESRAM comes out. You know? Logic, I was one of those guys that would get lathered up in green soap 10 years ago. No, I was. I mean, I remember. Wait till ESRAM comes out. Wait till developers start taking advantage of Kinect. You know, then you guys will see that none of that ever happened.
No, I miss my Kinect though. I
do too. I love the Kinect.
I miss the feeling of walking in my room and saying Xbox on.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, Xbox Watch TV. You know, well, how would you like play a game? Xbox play like so and so, right? Is that how you? I forget all the voice commands.
I only used it for Xbox On, and Xbox On and off were the only things that I really
used it for like Watch TV. I mean, I had it connected to my cable box because I think did it connect to your cable box? Is that how it like took over?
You could connect it to your cable box, and I want to say you could also connect it to a receiver. I don't know if there was integration there or what.
I think there was. I loved that. I love that feature. You know, I really did. But I just bring that point up because, you know, I've been on 2 podcasts with Tim this week, and it just seems like that community has always been. They've always managed to somehow, and not everyone in that community, but even, you know, individuals in that community and certain influencers have always seemed to just get it wrong a lot. You know, and totally sidestep what's happening in the market today in hopes that the market might change. And I think part of it's just that they hope that the market changes in their favor, which is weird.
No, I mean, we had a couple in here on Wednesday night. Like, again, look, I've been an Xbox fan. And not only that, I'll actually quadruple that on this topic. I've been an Xbox fan. I became a disillusioned Xbox fan. I came back as an even hardcore Xbox fan. And by hardcore Xbox fan, I mean, what I decided during my time when I was disillusioned, as I was soul searching, sitting out on mountains, staring off into the sunset, thinking for days at a time about my place in the Xbox universe, I said, what did I do with Sega? Like, Sega had problems, and ostensibly, like, Xbox is my spiritual replacement for Sega. And actually, I actually said it at the time as a kid. I was like, I was like, one of the reasons I stick with Sega is because they appeal to me more as a Westerner than like Nintendo. Like, I feel like they have interests and approaches to gaming that resonate with me more as a Westerner than the Nintendo approach. But I revisited this topic of, you know, how did I handle Sega? I was like, because look, Logic, you know, I was talking to myself. I said, you saw the impending doom, right, of the guillotine, right, on Sega, like coming down for a very, very, very long time, for 3 generations. You had a Sega Saturn. You heard they were no longer supporting it, right? You got rid of it. I got rid of it, traded it in, bought my first PlayStation. But I said, when the Dreamcast came back, right, I went in feet first. I didn't even hesitate or ask. Right, and then that went away. But I hung on. I didn't get rid of my Dreamcast. I got rid of my Dreamcast when the Xbox launched. So I was like, in each of those things, you stuck with Sega, you know, despite the problems that they had until it was all over. And I was like, so you know, regardless of what Xbox does, I will say, unless Xbox performs as they're performing commercially now and brings back the red ring of death, okay, at that point I'm out. Like, I can't deal with both.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm like, again, what we constantly go back to, like, you can have your heartstrings attached to a platform and just play the games and be involved in that ecosystem and love it. I've got probably over a dozen Xbox controllers. You know, I only have 3 PlayStation controllers. I'm not buying any more DualSenses. You know, but I have the ability to read a sales chart, right, and know what the hell is going on. And like the 2 guys who were in here Wednesday night, who, like, every time we said something and read off some data point, right, that was a factual piece of evidence of, you know, market data that was available and presentable. It was always like, oh well, what about this? Well, what about that? Well, what about PSVR 2 and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, these are all matters of how you guys feel about things, and you can feel however you want to feel about it. But like, you can't refute fact. Like, and I don't understand why you would bother.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Hamp, that's all I have for topics tonight, sir.
Yeah, no, man, it was a good talk.
Yeah. No,
Brian East, I don't know if you saw the link, but Microsoft did make Xbox body wash.
Yeah, actually, they did. I remember that.
Say the motto was "Staying clean is not a game, bro."
Oh my god!
Actually, that was just a Mashable byline that may have had nothing to do with Xbox, but it's still funny as heck.
I remember the green soap, man. I remember the Xbox soap, and remember the onesies. The Xbox. Who could forget the onesies, right?
Were there onesies?
Yeah, they had the Xbox onesies.
Jeez. Actually, that refrigerator was in Target the other day. I was tempted to go and buy one since I couldn't get one at launch.
I asked Aaron Greenberg, I was like, how many beers can I hold? He said 6. I said, it's not big enough. Yeah. You know what? Like if they had made like a actual mini fridge, I know that's technically a mini fridge. That's like a really small mini fridge, but they made like a regular mini fridge. I probably would have bought one.
That's actually it would be a good podcast fridge for me, because 6 is enough for me to put like 6 energy drinks in.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can put it in arm's reach too, because it's not that big.
Yeah. Yeah, because I always have this part of my routine of like going and putting an energy drink in the downstairs freezer, like some number of minutes prior to a podcast, so that it'll be cool enough, when it's time for us to go live. Mm-hmm. So that would reduce my logistics. I take that back. I don't need that power supply in here, sucking down power when I got multiple PCs in the freaking server room back here anyway. So no, never mind. It's all right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The lights might start like dimming.
Right.
What's going on down there? Whole neighborhood's dimming. They might remove you off the grid at that point. Anyhow, well, look, I want to give a big shout out to everyone in the live chat. Thanks for hanging out with us this evening on this BRAP rant. And Logic, always a pleasure, sir. Thank you so much for your time as well. And please do me a favor, hit that like button if you haven't done so already. If you're new, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. Oh, that's right. Xbox does have a toaster too.
Oh, do they really?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it looks like an Xbox Series S.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was trying to...
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Lord Metro says Mario Kart is number 18 in the NPD. That's crazy. Yeah, that is crazy. Talk about staying power. Hey, is that the game that sold like 67 million copies or something?
Yeah, that's their... I'm pretty sure that's their... I mean, Lord Metro may correct me. I think that's their best-selling Nintendo game ever in total.
Yeah, how many?
I thought in total, I thought it was up to 80-something million. I could be wrong.
No, let me check here. Let's see here. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, right?
69 million.
69 million?
Yeah, it's not just the deluxe SKU. They count Mario Kart 8 plus the Switch version in total.
Yeah, it's sex. I said sex. Oh my gosh. 6th best-selling video game of all time.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Jeez, man. Nintendo just printing money.
Very true.
Yeah. So,
what if totally will most likely never, ever happen?
What if Sony bought Nintendo?
No, we've talked a lot about hardware and what parts might wind up where, and it just occurred to me, they probably wouldn't do it. I'm sure they wouldn't do it. But would it be super interesting if Apple sold ARM chips to Nintendo?
That would be interesting.
If the Switch 2 had an M chip in it. Not talking about predictability of it actually happening, but just like it's interesting to speculate what that world would look like.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
or even just anything, quite honestly, other than an NVIDIA chip. What if Nintendo goes with an AMD APU next? What if they go with something like the chipset that's in like a Steam Deck, right, or one of these Windows handhelds? What if it's a Snapdragon, and Qualcomm gets in the game?
Yeah.
It's kind of super interesting to think about what that landscape might look like.
Yeah, no, that's definitely interesting. Yeah, absolutely.
Balls Cannon wants no more AMD consoles, please.
That's funny. Well, you did mention like Xbox partnering with Intel, right?
Yeah, it's curious. I mean, we saw the leak with an indication that I think they did say AMD chipset, and they did talk about 64-bit. So it was an indicator that there might be a notion that that Xbox would spool AMD up to, and AMD makes 64-bit ARM processors for their server line of business. So, yeah, just interesting. I mean, yeah, but then I guess I said that would of course probably be the CPU. Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know if I was serious about it, but it was just curious if Xbox would go back to Intel to make the ARC. Oh yeah, that's right. The reason I thought about that was because at was it the Build conference? I think at the Build conference was when Microsoft made its announcement, because I think everybody flipped out a couple of weeks ago when they heard Intel was working on like an AI chip, but I was like, that's not new news. Microsoft announced it like several weeks earlier. But Microsoft has a partnership with Intel not with Intel. I take that back. Microsoft is making a custom AI chip for Microsoft. I can't remember if they're partnered with Intel to do it, but whatever it is, they're either doing it on their own and going directly to TSMC, but anyway, they're not doing it through NVIDIA. So what that does, that's a huge impact to the NVIDIA business. But when Satya made that announcement, he brought Jensen out on stage to emphasize that that Microsoft still considers NVIDIA a principal partner. And so I think it was less so whether or not Intel would go in the next Xbox, but it was more of the thing that could go into the next Xbox could be Intel Arc to come in at a lower price point, but also could be NVIDIA because I think Satya is going to do something to replace that business that he's taking away from Jensen in order for there not to be any bad blood between the two of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. By the way, Logic, Baldur's Gate 3 won Game of the Year at the 2024 Game Developers Choice Awards. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, I wasn't. I saw Alana Pierce presenting at the GDC, and I don't think I remember anything else about any announcements from that night.
I hear you. Baldur's Gate 3 also won Best Narrative, no surprise. It also won Best Design, no surprise. What a great game.
It is. It's kind of, does it bring a tear to your eye that there will be no more of it?
Oh, there will always be Baldur's Gate 3.
No, I mean with the announcement that Larian is going to be basically walking away from that franchise and giving it off to kind of returning it back to the stewardship of Wizards of the Coast for them to figure out what they're going to do with it.
Yeah, I mean that's a little disappointing. I mean they did such a great job with the license of the game, and but they're going to move on to other things. I'm sure they're going to continue making great games.
Yeah, and Water mentions that I am a fan of Baldur's Gate 3. I like the game. It's just the only thing I would caveat, it's not this explosive surprise to me because I've been watching Larian do this the whole time. Yeah, I've been actively playing the Divinity series of games. So, I mean, I knew exactly what they had up their sleeve. I'm super happy for them. And I'm so glad that a studio that is technically an indie, right, was able to land such a huge mark. And for I think, I don't want to say we've forgotten, but I think we have kind of forgotten a little bit, like what the lineage of this game has been on the walk up to this release. That it was announced a few years ago, and if you came from Baldur's Gate 1 and Baldur's Gate 2, which were Obsidian joints or Black Isle joints, I guess, which a lot of people left Black Isle and went and formed Obsidian, or whatever the history is, but which was a top-down isometric, 3/4 view party type RPG for the Forgotten Realms, written on the AD&D Volume 2 rules or something like that, or 5th edition rules, something like that. But it was just kind of spiritually like a completely differently designed game. It actually was oriented for you to play it. It was made for you to play single player with the NPCs, but you could actually trick the game by claiming that you were playing multiplayer, but then assign yourself to all the player slots, and you could actually then roll 6 like brand new characters, which was how I played the game. It's just, so it was announced. People said, "What the heck is this?" Then it looked great, but then people were like, "But is this going to be? This doesn't look like Baldur's Gate, So is this going to be Baldur's Gate? Right? Is it going to capture that essence?" And then for them to do early release on PC and go through all the things, for them to stick the landing, because a lot of people were also like, this game has been in early access for a long time. Like, why is it not coming out? Like, so there was a lot of swirl of doubt around that game, and for them to stick the landing the way they did is just really happy for them after all they've done.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I don't disagree. Yeah, I'm still in my PlayStation 5 playthrough, so I'll get back to that at some point. So, quick $2 super chat from Lord Metroid. Thank you, Lord Metroid. Says, "Nintendo, hold it down, LOL." Yeah, Nintendo's just on a different plane. I want to make sure I didn't miss any super chats here before we wrap up. No, that's it. All right. Again, everyone, thank you so much for hanging out with us this evening. Really appreciate it. And we'll be back Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, hit that like button. Helps out the channel. If you're new, subscribe. Hit the bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. And let us know in the comment section below what you think about the microtransactions for Dragon's Dogma 2. Logic, any other closing thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah, man, but just be civil. Look, you just because you disagree with us doesn't mean like you have to get offended. Like, we didn't insult anybody up here. If you like Dragon's Dogma 2, you like Dragon's Dogma 2, have a conversation, right? We love having the conversation. Just don't have to get messy and grimy about it. I don't know why we have to make everything personal in the gaming conversation.
Yeah, well, I think that's and that's unfortunate too, because gaming it's an entertainment hobby. It's supposed to be fun. I think we have enough of that outside of gaming.
Look, I'm down with the theory, and I'm just like, if the world rotates back to this, I'm gonna let it go. Quite frankly, I just think not enough of you guys got bullied when you were kids. We just need to bring back like taking nerds' heads and sticking them in toilets, right? You getting wedgies,
man. Come on,
right,
man.
in the
Jesus,
giving nerds wedgies in the high school locker room, like bring it back. Like, it used to be that gamers were this insular society, and that like when they found each other, there was camaraderie, there was solidarity. You guys, there's no fear. That's the problem. That's the problem. Like, gamers don't live in fear like we did. And that's what we need to bring back.
Oh man. All right. I don't know about the wedgies and stuff, but yeah, that's all right. Well, everyone, again, have a great evening. Have fun playing video games this weekend. We'll catch you next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Logic, if you want to let everyone know they can find you, please let them know. If not, we'll wrap up the show.
Yeah. Catch me at 8:45 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on the Enough to Keep Going Weekly Games Podcast on the E2KG Network podcasting channel.
Yeah, and you can you can catch me here every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time with Game Logic, B-Money 101, Gaming Forte, and Slow-Mo Backslap. And you can give me a follow on Twitter or X at BRAP_podcast. So until then, we'll catch you next time. Thank you, everyone.